but actually we've set them up with a contract worth 78 grand. The rent in this area is very hot right now. He will end up on a higher mortgage interest rate. Sticking with buy-to-let is an absolute no-brainer. Well, this particular investor was actually an overseas investor.
Okay. So at Ross's latest client project, this one's still undergoing a refurb actually. There's actually people working upstairs currently, but you can see it's getting on quite well. Kitchen's coming in from Howden's, looking pretty good. So what's the figure saying on this one?
Figures on this one was a £45,000 purchase, a £30,000 refurb, and we're looking for an end value of 100,000.
Okay, what area are we in currently then?
So we're in a place called Consett in County Durham.
Okay, and for Consett, is that a good value property, or what do properties range from, like the average house price over here?
Yeah, I would say this was a bargain. You can't pick up cheap property, but this was definitely a bargain. This was secured through an agency, but just built on a relationship.
And did you secure this property, or did you work alongside someone?
No, this is actually co-sourced. Yeah, so this was a bit of a team effort. So a guy called Chris sourced it, and we matched it to one of our investors.
There we go. So could you just give like a walkthrough of what you guys are planning with the property?
Yeah.
What's going on? What's next for the property?
Of course, yeah. So I mean, yeah, come through here if you want.
Yeah.
So this is quite a small property actually. It's just a 2-bedroom. It's got a family bathroom upstairs as well. This is the lounge, and then it just sort of feeds into the kitchen space there. But we've obviously plastered the walls, reboarded where we had to. All of the interior doors have been done. Flooring's now down. Kitchen and bathroom replacement. Rear yard's been sort of refreshed, if you like. And but the rent in this area is very hot right now.
What can you achieve with that sort of rent?
Yeah, so like £600 a month we'll achieve quite easily. I mean, we could be cheeky, we could advertise at 650 and probably get it, but I think, to be honest, 600 is like market value.
Okay, for the ROI for this sort of project, what would you be looking at for these sort of?
Yeah, so this one's in excess of 20%. So we always look for at least 20% on a BRR to buy to let.
Just the standard.
Yeah, well, so I think money left in, I think he's around the £12,000. I think if we were to get a 550 rent, it's at 20%. If we achieve 600, for example, we'll surpass that.
Okay, that's not bad.
But it's a really, really popular area for buy-to-let rentals, and we're very confident. What will happen is with this as well, is it'll go straight over to Katie, our lettings manager.
Yeah.
So we'll keep the lettings in-house, and she'll advertise the property for rent.
And with this specific property, have you faced any problems with this one, or has it just been smooth sailing?
No, this one's been straight through. No disasters to report on this one. I've got a really good bunch of lads on this that just come in. If they see something that needs done, it gets done.
And condition-wise, when you received the property, what was it saying? Like moderate? Was it really bad, or was it just like
I would call it moderate. We haven't went back to brick on this one. No. Obviously, £30,000 on the refurb. That for us is quite a small
mid-range.
Yeah. Yes, I'll take you upstairs.
Sound.
So as you can see there, the guys are fitting a new plumbing system, so new plumbing and heating system, and the bathroom is being completely remodeled, retiled, new suite, and getting ready for tenants.
Yeah, so the whole property is done to a very high spec then, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say mid-range across the board. There's obviously a lot of other things you can replace if you really wanted to, but what we're trying to do is just deliver a safe and compliant rental property. Yeah.
Okay, and for the investors you deal with, what sort of investor would this property go to?
Well, this particular investor was actually an overseas investor. Okay. So he lives out in Qatar and clearly needed end-to-end support. A lot of our investors are sort of down south in London. Sometimes they're overseas, but actually we treat them exactly the same in that they need support from end to end. Okay,
and this specific deal, what style of investor could it be targeting? Like maybe more of someone getting started, more experience? What would you say this could work for?
That's actually a really good question. I think this type of investment is absolutely perfect for first timers. I think sticking with the buy-to-let strategy, clearly stepping into a BRR deal, bringing in builders, buying derelict properties always comes with elements of risk, but I think this is a perfect example of a first-time investment.
So touching back on your investor again, is there any differences with him being overseas rather than being in the UK? Like, what implications are there? So
there is actually, yeah. So the two main things that are different is one, the stamp duty. This investor has paid the 3% and an additional 2%. So 5% in total on his stamp duty. When it comes to putting a mortgage on the property as well, he will end up on a higher mortgage interest rate for sure, just because he's a non-UK resident. Yeah.
So say we have more people watching that are overseas investors or even just investors for this country, what's sort of the process for, say, looking at finding the deal, so securing it for you guys, and then what happens after that? And then where does it go after the project's finished? And then where does it go, like, from the project being ready to go to then renting it out? What's the sort of process around that?
Well, first things first, we always put them in touch with the broker. We need to find out if they're actually in a position to buy.
Okay.
So we'll put them on the phone to a broker, and they'll establish whether or not they can gain a mortgage based on their residency. Once we've got the green light from the mortgage broker, we know we can match them to a deal. Okay. Clearly, we support them throughout the refurb process, but on the back end, normally they're looking for a trusted agent to help them with lettings, and that's where we come in as well.
So with there being so many strategies out there, from rent to rent, buy to let, or the BRR, even like HMOs, what's the risk threshold for, say, a buy to let? Or like, what would you recommend investors get into, either experienced or new beginners? Like, what's a good threshold level per investment, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, I've spoke to hundreds and hundreds of investors, and I think that the very first thing we talk about is risk appetite. Because they might want a high cash flowing deal, but actually, are they prepared to go through the complexity? Clearly, these higher cash flowing strategies come with associated risks. What I would say is that if they're relatively new or very risk averse, sticking with buy to let is an absolute no brainer. Whether you go for a turnkey buy-to-let or a BRR buy-to-let, stay in your lane, and that's something I would target. Okay, so all the strategies, if we list them now then, so lowest risk, you'd say buy-to-let, the BRR to buy-to-let. Mid-range, what would you put mid-range? Maybe more to social housing, maybe? Yeah. I think as you sort of climb up the complexity, I think that mid-range would be sort of HMOs, social housing, things like this. Yeah. And then what would you say is the top of the risk threshold? Maybe rent to rent, you could say, potentially, or is there other strategies you can think of? I think fair one. Rent to rent, even SA in general, to be honest, if you think that's the maximum cash flow you could achieve, I think that'll always come with complexities, and actually just having a really thorough understanding for how to implement the strategy. You have to be a bit of a specialist to win at that level. Okay.
So we're at Ross's third client project. So can you tell us a bit about this project itself?
Yeah, so this is a social housing HMO. This is 5 bedrooms. We actually purchased this as a 3-bedroom terrace property, and there was actually enough space on the ground floor to create an additional 2 bedrooms. So this is a 5-bedroom, 1-bathroom social housing HMO.
So as a HMO then, for the time it takes from start to finish, does it take a lot longer than an average property to refurb? Or it could be around the same time? It's obviously just a bit more work.
Yeah, I suppose a bit more specialist work, because it's got to be HMO compliant. And of course, with it going to 5 bedrooms, it needs to be licensed. So you need to get that authority from the council that it's been done correctly. So yeah, I'd say it does take a bit longer, and refurbs typically cost a bit more as well.
So as you're finding a deal like a HMO, how can you give more of a reassurance that you will be able to get a license on the property before obviously they purchase it and go through the whole process?
Yeah, I think obviously we're just leaning on our experience and the fact that we know what the council look for. And clients take confidence from that, But all of the compliance is stuff we're used to doing, fire doors and fire escapes and emergency lighting, etc. It's something we do. We're very used to doing.
Okay, so let's go have a look around and see what it's looking like.
Excuse the for sale sign.
Sorry. Can you give like a run through of what you've changed, what's had to be adapted?
Yeah, of course. So this is a ground floor bedroom. We do this an awful lot, so if there's enough space, one of the ground floor reception rooms is always converted into a bedroom, right? So this is just a stud wall put up, and as you can see, we just wrap the skirting around, new liquor paint, and then just a very basic furniture pack as well. So this is what we'll normally install as part of any social housing deal, is a single bed, a wardrobe, or often referred to as a tall boy because it's got the drawers as well, and then a blind.
So for social housing HMO compared to a standard HMO, how much difference is there?
So it's just the HMO aspect of it. So there's you get more rent if you deliver it as a HMO. So if you spend a little bit more on the refurb and installing fire doors and the correct fire alarm systems, you can actually then get more rent. Okay.
So what benefits could an investor see choosing the social housing over a standard HMO then?
Yeah, so the biggest selling feature is the fact that it's quite high cash flow, but actually also it's the passive nature of the income, because once we've finished the refurb and we've handed it over to the provider, they will pay our client each month for about 60 months. They can opt in for a 3 or 5 year contract.
Yes, I was going to say, so terms then for investors, you could see between 3 and 5 years as standard.
That's right, yeah. We always typically choose the 5 year, I think for obvious reasons. And then they will cover things like, I mean, there's no management cost, there's no void periods. The investor's going to be paid each month for that term.
Yeah, of course, sounds good. So let's go check the other rooms out and see how they're dressed and finished.
But you'll notice it's just a very basic fit out. This is just it's fit for purpose. There's no need to go above and beyond for its intended use. Very sort of no frills, but as you'll see, it's been finished to a good standard.
I guess it's just more like comfortable, and then just obviously any standard wear and tear you get in a property anyways, you replace as and when needed.
Absolutely, yeah. So the provider will cover off a lot of the maintenance throughout the contract. There's obviously no utility bills for the client to be concerned with or anything like that. They'll take over the council tax, everything.
So it's quite a good opportunity for investors then.
It is, yeah. I think it plays into the hands of remote investors as well.
Yeah.
We get an awful lot of remote investors wanting to do business, and I think the passive nature of the income, they don't have to worry about private tenants or any management fees.
So what sort of investor could you look at for these sort of projects? Because we've discussed different investor types. What investor could maybe fit into this, or could it be a new investor, or could it be more of an experienced one? What would you aim it towards?
Yeah, I think it's certainly for those that are just looking for an easy ride, something that's very passive. But actually it also plays into the hands of investors who potentially are religious or maybe are against mortgages.
Okay, why's that?
Because they're not really about pulling money out. They're not really about recycling cash. They're just about money in and then high cash flow.
Okay.
So really, we have worked with investors of this nature before. In fact, this one is for a gentleman who's religious, who isn't interested in mortgages.
Okay.
And he's just interested in that high passive income.
So as we spoke about your previous property, about risk thresholds, where would you probably put this on the risk ladder? So either low, medium, high, because obviously it's a mixture of social housing as well as the BRR aspect as well.
Yeah, I think, well, this one is definitely mid-range because it falls into that HMO category.
Yeah.
There's always more hoops to jump through with HMOs. However, it's a hell of a lot simpler than private sector HMOs.
Okay.
Private sector HMOs where you've got local people in each of the bedrooms. It's really quite a challenge on the lettings management. Whereas with this, as soon as it's handed over, it's done. I suppose the complexity level's just in the delivery.
I guess a lot more safer as well because you don't experience the voids, because 9 times out of 10 the providers do pay for void periods. Whereas if you had a standard HMO, if you've got to find students as your target, or the contractors or professionals maybe,
it's
if
true.
you can't get it let, you've got a potential void period. So it's probably like a safer for investments who want obviously their hands off. So we have 2 bedrooms downstairs. That means there's 3 more to look at upstairs.
There's 3 more upstairs, yeah.
So I assume they're all dressed fairly similar.
Yeah, it's just we put together a furniture pack, and it's obviously just your furniture as well as your blinds, white goods in the kitchen, fire blanket, and things like that.
Yeah, very nice bathroom, finished quarter standard.
Again, just sort of fairly sort of no frills, very very clean.
There's everything you need in the one place.
Yep, this is the one bathroom. With any 5 bed, there must be a separate WC, which is why there was a WC down off the kitchen there. Yeah, this is the biggest bedroom.
Oh wow!
So you just need to push this bed against the wall, but yeah, just going back to lending as well. It's when you're trying to get your money out of a deal like this and place a mortgage on the property, can be quite tricky. There's not many lenders out there that like 5-year leases.
Okay.
And it's to do with repossession. But we work quite closely with 2 lenders now, and they're happy to do it, but you still need to jump through some hoops.
Okay.
And what we found, the 2 things to make any client aware of is that the mortgage rates are very high. So I think it's anywhere between 7 and 8% on a mortgage product designed for this. And secondly, they're not very generous when it comes to GDVs.
Okay.
So when an investor is looking to uplift the value of the property through the refurb, more often than not, we don't see a substantial uplift.
So how has the client found the process from start to finish?
He's really happy, actually. I mean, given the fact that he paid a sourcing fee, I think he paid £4,000 plus VAT.
Yeah.
And we found him the property, of course, but actually we've set him up with a contract worth 78 grand. I think that's sometimes like in real terms what we're doing. Yeah.
So within that £4,000 then, what does that sort of get them? Like, what is the service you provide from start to finish?
Yeah, so the sourcing fee itself, the 4K, is actually just acquiring the property, but it means finding it, negotiating on the purchase price, and of course securing. So then once we've got our name against it and we've secured the deal in place, we then need to secure a social housing contract.
Okay.
That can be quite tricky. That's a process in itself. But once the housing provider comes back to us and says, yes, we'll take on the property, that finalises the deal and we sell the deal.
And then, so when the refurb is undergoing, do you guys manage that? Do you oversee it? Basically make sure everyone's running smoothly? Make sure every day to day until it's complete is all basically watched over?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's a separate charge. So the sourcing fee initially is just for getting the property, and then we offer up a project liaison service where we will be involved throughout the entire build process. And we found there's definitely a place for us in there. Yes, you're going to have your builder, and the contractor for the works will be with the builder, but having us involved from keeping an eye on the investment side of things. And we often find with the glue, we're keeping everything together, making sure it's on track and that it's being delivered to the right standard. And of course, liaising with the housing provider, they deal with us directly, and that would encompass our project liaison service.
So basically, it makes it a bit more hands off as well for the investor, because of your experience, you know basically what's going on. Basically, just relay it to them, tell them everything's going all right, everything's smooth, and they basically just receive the payments at the end of the day every month.
Exactly.
Or own the property.
I think from the very beginning we realised that in order to have a trusted service, we needed to offer them services throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
So like we're an intricate part of everything. The sourcing, we move through into the refurb, and then on the back end we deal with the lettings, whether that be private or through housing providers. We're in charge. We're running the whole show.
Yeah, so it's a bit different to what some people do, because some people just source a deal, and obviously then it's down to investors' due diligence and obviously the work they do. Obviously, you as a company, you decide to work with the investor from start to finish, and even after the project is complete, just to ensure the investor's happy and satisfied with their project. Yeah. And obviously, it's good to keep the investor happy thereafter.
Absolutely, but actually offering that end-to-end service, that's actually increased our sales.
Okay.
If you imagine, that's helped us build a reputation because we're standing by the deal. We're actually, even now, we've introduced a new service where we'll offer them a rent guarantee on the back end. Okay, so we believe in the numbers so much that we'll actually guarantee their rent.
So Ross, where can people find you and what can people expect?
So you can find us predominantly on Instagram, and that's Ross Orrock _property. And what can you expect? You can expect real world, honesty, transparency. This is what we're about. This is what we're known for, is looking after people. If you're genuinely looking for a one-stop shop in the Northeast, I'm very much behind our services.
Okay, this is the man to go to, Northeast. There you go.